All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. I'm your host, Patrick Moran. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you all very much. Today's episode is presented by Imperial Pizza, two locations, the staple South Buffalo location at 1035 Abbott Road, and of course, the brand new place at 1665 Main Street. Make sure you go check that out. I am joined here in studio, and we're going to record actually back-to-back episodes. So this episode's for Thursday. We're going to do a Fan Friday for Friday, joined by my buddy Tone Pucks. What's going on, man? Haven't seen you or talked to you since actually before the Chiefs game. Had you in the studio before the Chiefs game, not since. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing all right. I think, being that it's my first appearance since, Feed Me KC, I think, right? I mean, did I pop in for one after Feed Me KC in preparation? I mean, I feel like it may not have been it was right after the game because the kid was here. That was it, right? The Pittsburgh game.
Yeah, you came here after the Pittsburgh game. We did a post-game show.
So this is the first time I've been around since my makeshift Feed Me KC shirt. I was beating the drum. When Pat Mahomes sat there in the locker room afterwards and said, they wanted it and they got, what I mean? I can't remember now. I'm going to forget how he phrased it exactly, but
they asked for it. Something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. And I think, he was speaking directly to me. I think I ended up bulletin board material for the Kansas City Chiefs.
You're not the only one.
I'm sorry.
Let me start there.
Yeah, but I'm the only one who really, really wanted the matchup.
You did,
man.
You wanted it before most people did.
I wanted the matchup. Yes, before
I think
most wanted.
I think most people waited till after the Miami game, and then once Kansas City beat Miami and they knew they were playing Kansas City, they got excited for it. Whereas you were calling out the Chiefs pretty much. Actually, you were calling out the Chiefs before the Pittsburgh game. The Pittsburgh game was confirmation that they were going to play the Chiefs. That's because right. You had the Feed Me KC shirt on before they even played the Steelers, I think. I'm pretty sure. That sounds right anyway. I can't remember.
It wasn't that long ago. But that what do you call it? Blizzardy thing, that week of paralyzing weather took a lot of people for a loop. You know what I mean? Like a little small, very small sample size of like COVID. Tell me that you didn't come out of that week all backwards and shit, man. I didn't know what was going on.
I didn't know to an extent. I never thought of it.
Kids in school that were home and shit like that were crushing me. Shout out to Aaron Quinn, who at least shares in that a little bit. Is the only guy locally, I see that at least puts, his trials and tribulations of parenting out there
he
for
does.
The world. And I love that shit. Actually.
That's a good point. I never thought of that. Shit. It was like a little bit of a taste of COVID. For me, so my primary job, I work from home. I do this podcast from home, and I drive part-time. Did not go to work at all for the driving job that whole week. I literally, with the exception of going to the store twice, I don't think I left the house for 8 days, like during that storm and in the aftermath. Part of it was laziness. I mean, it wasn't like undrivable or anything for 8 days. But yeah, I kind of got a little bit of taste of COVID. Let's start here. So we're going to talk today about a bunch of things, including the Bills retaining, if I guess you want to call that, Joe Brady, or removing the interim tag, naming Bobby Babich defensive coordinator. I'm going to get your thoughts on that in a couple of minutes. But actually, let's start here because, again, you were on immediately after the Pittsburgh game and were not on after the Kansas City game. It's been a little more than a week and a half since the Bills lost by a field goal at home to the Chiefs to end their season in the divisional round for a third straight year. Where's your head at right now? Like, what's your level of annoyance with the end of the season and how things played out, if at all, at this point?
Yeah, it's probably significantly less than most other people's level of annoyance,
Yeah.
I mean, I was hurting. I went through the usual, on Monday. But I would say by about Wednesday, I was kind of like, okay, I'm back into just some sort of not just life mode, but football mode that is like I remember what the start of the off season feels like, and I just got there, and then when the conference championships are played, and your team's just not being talked about at all anymore. I think that's when it like totally sets in. So I don't know what you're asking. If you were asking me just, my state of optimism for the Bills, or just, my ups and downs from, from how we all process the loss. But that was kind of my week of fandom, in a nutshell. I think I got to a resigned place quicker than most.
Yeah. What's funny is, well, it's not funny. I had so much angst and anxiety leading up to the game that I said this multiple times on the show recently. I just didn't enjoy this season as a whole. This might have been the least enjoyable Josh Allen quarterback season of the Buffalo Bills, maybe since his rookie year, because there was no expectations, or even maybe 2019. I felt this was the year where the window was not going to be any more wide open than this. This is as open as it's going to get. It's not shut. We know that. I don't need to say that. But anyway, I just didn't have no enjoyment for the season, or very little enjoyment during the season. I was anxious before the game. For whatever reason, after the game, I got over it quickly. I don't know why, but I got over it real quick. Like, I woke up Monday morning and I was almost fine. But I've gotten progressively more annoyed since then.
Oh, that's interesting dynamic.
Because, well, you mentioned it, the championship game, watching the Ravens lay an egg at home. That bothered me, because I always thought that the Bills can match up well with the Ravens, just because I thought that they'd be able to stymie that passing game, just like the Chiefs did. So that annoyed me. And I've also been annoyed at fans to an extent. We're going to talk about this too in a few minutes. Just the reaction. It's just, I don't know, man.
I will have so little to say. All right. I shut all that shit out. All right. The minute the season ends. All right. If I could spend 10 minutes on the For You algorithms that feed me so many terrible Bills takes throughout the season, I would switch that mode on right then and there. I don't want to hear what anybody has to say from a fan perspective, and I'm a fan too. All right,
so
I'm not on the other side.
Same,
okay,
same.
I'm not trying to say I am high and mighty in my interpretation of your opinions. Okay, but some of them are just awful. They're just awful, and I don't have a great deal of respect for them, and or think that anybody is really on to anything. It's just a ton of sour grapes, and just like, it's an awful time to be in Bill's Twitter. So I just removed myself from Bill's Twitter. You got this thing here, I'm
in
Buffalo
the pig.
Sports.
I roll around in the mud, just like Tyler Dunn, like this said a couple of days ago. A lot of
I'm gonna maybe find my way to that. That was a big guest to have.
There was a lot of opinions.
The first most relaxed sit down. I think he's not. I could be wrong here, but he's been quoted. He hasn't backed away from his article or anything like that. No. He's been out there. He's been visible. All right, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that he's ever been able to be as relaxed,
right,
as he was in this chair. Thank you, though, by the way, for following up like your most anticipated episode ever with my ass on like the fucking Wednesday afternoon. As I do, like
it was his first time
what
where
am I supposed to do with that.
He addressed the article and stuff. He has numerous times, but it's been on his own show under his own terms, where he got to kind of narrate the story, whereas this was the first time he got to sat down with someone locally anyway, for sure.
But let's get back to you instead.
Yeah.
So were you aware, all right, in a clip that you put out, that you used the word, did you intentionally use the word pandering like 4 to 6 times, all right, during a back and forth with Tyler, maybe towards definitely in the more relaxed part of the show? You put a clip out there that said pandering like 5 times, man. And I'm just thinking to myself, are you starting to gravitate towards the towards the opinion, one very loud opinion that you are indeed pandering, Pat.
Yeah.
All right. Did you know you did it, bro?
Yeah.
Did you know you used pandering that many times?
I brought Joe up on the show. Tyler said,
because Tyler
said something along the lines that there's a portion of people who cover the team that pander to the fans. And I said internally, I was laughing.
You pander to media. That's the funny thing about you. You are mostly pandering, Pat, for pandering to other people's opinions. And
for sure.
Like that. You're actually not a Bills panderer. You'll fucking shit on them because you ain't got a prayer.
I'm about to in a few minutes.
All right, well, go get started on shitting on them now, because I think they had a pretty good week. If you're really able to, detach yourself from that Kansas City game and the end of the season, all right, then they really had a pretty good week. Let me say this though, I think one of the reasons I'm more able to detach myself from it, or we land in different places, is I didn't hate the season. Like you assessed this season just a minute ago as like you just didn't enjoy it as much as you thought you would have.
And I thought it was a flop.
And I'm going to say that every expectation, all right, has to, be kind of measured in its own way. And weeks 0 through 1 through 12 were exhausting, man. Exhausting.
Sure.
But that run, all right, against the teams we did it against, and Miami on the last day, and looking at that Chiefs game lining up and stuff like that, man, that was about a month and a half of as fun a Bill season as I can remember having. About a month and a half, bro. All right, because I'm not going to say all 6 games of the winning streak necessarily, but I am going to borrow those 2 playoff weeks, even in a loss, and say somewhere in there were 6 really, really fun weeks of the football season, right?
That's fair. Here's my problem, and let me circle back to Bills fans. You mentioned about them shitting on the team. I see it the opposite way, actually. My issue, and this is something from my conversations with Tyler Dunn, and not just his article and not just the podcast the other day, but the expectations that fans put on this team. What are you satisfied with? What should the expectations be at this point? Is a successful regular season good enough? And I don't think it should be anymore at this point. Like, I think fan acceptance or expectation right now is too low. I feel that this team should have a Super Bowl or bust mentality, and that's how we should evaluate these seasons. And if you think maybe that's just a little bit too far, at least get into a conference championship needs to be the expectations. And if you don't, to me, that's a failure of a season. I think too many fans and too many media and content creators too, and I fall guilty of it myself sometimes, but you take regular season stats and DVOA and all these metrics and tell you how good the Bills are, and still talking about that today. Like, there should be more talk about how Ed Oliver face planning in the playoffs again, how Stephon Diggs did absolutely dick in the playoffs for a 3rd straight year now at this point. Doesn't feel like there's a standard in Buffalo that like the Packers have, like Green Bay fans have, or like Dallas fans have. Buffalo, it's like, it's a good run. It was a good season. Won 10, 11 games, won an AFC East division title. Hooray, go get the t-shirt. AFC East divisional champions. There's just too much acceptance to me of getting to this point and losing. And I know I'm not saying fans are complete, they're not doing cartwheels and shit, but the expectation should be higher than it is. And I think that's where I take issue with most fans, media, content creators, whoever. I don't think this season was in any way, shape, or form a success. That's the way I look at it, because they didn't get to a conference championship. This team is too good to be losing year after year after year in the divisional round of the playoffs. And to me, maybe it's because of my age, because we lived during an era where the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls. They were in another AFC championship game that they lost to the Bengals.
Wrap it up, because I got a great take that just hit me out of nowhere.
Go ahead.
I mean, this just fucking hit me.
Hit it before you lose it, because I can't hold it.
I'm going to keep it. Actually, it's gonna stay. And by the way, all right, everything you said and the way you delivered it, it was clip worthy. It was
Clip it.
Clip it.
Did you forget your take?
No, I didn't. Let me tell you something that the Bills' recent success coincides with and how it may really kind of be impacting the way the playoffs has lined up for the Bills. Okay. Here, because my belief on the success or failures of a season is, all right, you can't lose as a decided favorite in the playoffs. All right. Like, you can't miss the playoffs. That almost happened. You can't lose by a decided favorite. And once you get into those final 4 to 8 teams, all right, here's hoping, the breaks are going your way, whether they're the injury scenarios before the game, the way the football bounces in the game. They are fucking coin flip games as far as I'm concerned. All right. They really are. Especially if it's the Chiefs. You've ended up having to face the Chiefs 2 times. All right. Hold on. You ended up having to face the Chiefs like 2 times in a divisional.
Yeah.
All right. Because of what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
At least 1, maybe 2. The Bills' success has coincided with the change in the number of playoff teams and the reduction of a bye week for the number 2 seed.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. That shit has been huge. That changes a lot. All right. When we go to compare them against, playoff past failures, Rivers, if you will. Okay. That has been big, man. The Bills have just ended up in some really, really tough divisional games, home and road.
I agree.
All right. That most teams that find their way to a Super Bowl, either that's their first game and they're like well rested because they're the one, or they're significantly better than the other teams still in the divisional round. The Bills haven't gotten any of that. Some of it's a product of their own doing. All right, with this year certainly being that, although this year they end up at 2. But some of it too is
they did last year too.
Is the fact that they don't get the bye as the 2. The 1 starts getting the bye, and the 2 ends up just with really, really difficult matches, and it ends up that Kansas City had the rough season too, but it coincides. So that coincides with them being the 3 and, instead of 2, like, let's say it's whatever, Baltimore and Kansas City's roles are reversed and Baltimore is coming here for a divisional and shit like that. All right. You're like, all right, we're what, 5.5 point favorites. We're feeling pretty good about that. But no, you get like a guy who is now putting himself in the conversation of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That's the draw you get. So not only is that the team you've been drawn, okay, but you've been drawing them sooner than you should be otherwise. All right, by virtue of the fact that the 2 seed no longer gets a second bye. That has been bad luck for the Bills. And maybe agree. It's just, the cherry on top for me, which does not judge these seasons by the Super Bowl. I judge them by how hard did you try to get to the Super Bowl without saying it. And this year was A+. This year was all in. Sure, they missed not doing the receiver early, and they could have gone, added more than Douglas at the deadline. But man, they signed the ball. Everywhere they needed to go, they did to win a championship this year. They gave me everything they had, in terms of their roster management.
I couldn't agree more. And I think you have a good take about the bye.
And they ended up, all right, is probably the 5th or 6th best team in football that couldn't close out a game. And that, for me, we didn't even talk about the game. I don't care to. All right. I'm not all pissed at Josh or nothing like that. I could break down the last drive or the failing series of the last drive, but this is just a totally different fucking Bills universe right now. If you just score the tutty. Just score the fucking tutty, man. Just score the tutty. All right. And then the defense closes in about 45 seconds or they don't. But score the tutty and everything's different.
Agreed. And I agree about the bye too. But I'll say this too, because I think ultimately
I may have overhyped the bye. Like when the bye hit me, I was like, "Oh my god, this is incredible!" And then I was.
It matters. I'm not going to say it doesn't
kind of
matter.
fizzled a little bit in delivery.
I'll give you a perfect bye example, a specific. If the Bills would have had a bye as a 2 seed this season, Terrell Bernard doesn't get hurt. Don't tell me that shit didn't matter.
Sure,
that mattered a ton. But having said that, I think this ultimately comes back to a comparison of a team in another sport. I'll get to that. I agree with you about the bye. That said, Kansas City had an equal tough road. They had to go on the road, literally. They were hit hard with injuries, just like the Bills. They lost their safety on the second offensive snap of the game, who's a good one. So they were hurting too. The year before, you get the Bengals at home. Dude, let's not forget, okay? The Bengals had 3 starting offensive linemen out of the game and still just dominated the Bills.
There was some bad juju in the fucking stadium that day, man. All right. There was just some bad juju in that stadium, which sucked because I remember walking in. It's one of the few Facebook videos I've ever done in my life. But I remember walking into that Cincy game like, this is the coolest atmosphere I've ever walked through.
Coolest?
Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think it's because I hadn't gone to a game in a little while or whatever. And I was just, I was uppity.
Let me offer you an NBA comparison.
Good, because I had no idea what even started that.
Everybody has kept saying, I saw this all year long. And I understand until now, but everything I've said, the Bills are the Chicago Bulls that need to get over the Detroit Pistons. They couldn't get over. They had to get over the Detroit Pistons to start winning all these championships.
Nobody uses the Bulls.
Bullshit.
Nobody uses the Bulls, listen, bro, because that would imply that you're about to blow past the Chiefs and become a dynasty. That is
you got to get past them.
That's over with. You are no longer in play for the dynasty.
Agreed.
The Chiefs, you know what I mean?
I'm telling you, I heard all the time.
Let me give you a more accurate you let far too many terrible takes. All right. Into your world.
Well, let me give you a NBA comparison take that's not terrible. The Bills are not the Bulls that had to get over the Pistons. You know who the Buffalo Bills are right now? They're the 1990s New York Knicks.
Love it. Boom!
They're the Knicks. And the Kansas City Chiefs and Pat Mahomes. That's Jordan. That's the Bulls.
Beautiful.
Everyone's like, you got to wait to get over the Bulls, or the Bulls get over the Pistons. I don't know that they are. The New York Knicks in the 90s were good. They lost to the Bulls in the playoffs 4 fucking times in a row. 4 times in a row.
Only 37% of your listeners right now are understanding how good this reference is, but that's okay because those 37% of the people, all right, are what matters. It's great, man.
It's not for the Chiefs,
it's a great take because we're no longer that upstart team. That's gonna go past them. I think that ship sailed like last year, big time.
What happened when Michael Jordan went to bat? When Michael Jordan left to go to baseball and was gone for a year and a half, what happened? The Knicks went to an NBA final that year. Remember, they lost to Houston in '94?
Sure.
All right. Well, they couldn't get past the Bulls, though, with Jordan. And I feel like that's how the Bills are at this point. I don't know that they're going to get past the Chiefs. I don't know that they can beat the Chiefs. So if Pat Mahomes tears an ACL or something, maybe the Bills will go to the Super Bowl. Were it not for the Chiefs, maybe the Bills go to 2 Super Bowls by now.
Yeah.
You know, if they get past the Chiefs 13 seconds, they're beating Cincy at home. And I feel, honestly, objectively, if the Bills beat the Chiefs 2 weeks ago, I think they go into Baltimore and beat Baltimore just like the Chiefs did. You're talking potentially 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, but you cannot get past Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Well, what a nemesis, man. What a way the story turned. This year in particular, you know what I mean? It just, but it doesn't fucking matter though. In the grand scheme of things, okay, it doesn't matter about becoming the dynasty and why we didn't and stuff like that. All right, just the biggie right now is this kid's got to bring this town a Super Bowl. Okay.
Sure.
All right. He's at year 7A, whatever it is,
Dynasty's
that sort
gone.
of thing. Josh seems like a cat who's going to play for a minute. And it would be a really weird day for the Bills to come off him. I think he plays into his late 30s in this city. And he's got to come away with one.
He does.
That's all, man. Just plenty of time left. And we're right back in the conversation next year, because this year's team, the 2024, the coming 2024 Bills are not going to suck, man. That roster is probably going to end up looking better than certainly, this year's Bills ended with.
Don't agree. Take a quick break. Be right back.
You're out of your mind.
All right, I'm back here with Tone Pucks. Let me ask you a question. Do you consider...
Don't you ever go to a break with a last word like that again on me.
All right. I think
don't agree.
1 through 22 will be as good. 1 through 22 will be as good.
Yeah, you think we'll have some depth issues?
It's absolutely going to have some depth issues. They're not going 8-9 deep with proven veterans on the defensive line, defensive backs.
Well, as luck would have it, all right, I've got a block of time off this weekend where I was going to break down what I think the Bills 38 through 52 might look like next year. So I'll be able to provide that, man. Fuck, I don't know, dude. We're just talking about 1 through 30-ish, all right? 1 through 30-ish. And I'm putting Matt Milano back on the football field, all right?
And
I'm robbing that from your side of the of the legend. I'm talking about those healthy returns make this team way better than the one that just lost to the Chiefs. Might not be fair. I might be it might be a little biased there, might be kind of tilted my way, but so what? All right, those injuries mattered huge. They mattered huge. And there were excuses in the games other than 13 seconds. There were real reasons behind why the Bills season ended when it did the last few years.
Absolutely. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you're going to listen to this and you're going to say, what? Bullshit. But I'm telling you now, if the Bills do not lose Terrell Bernard, the Buffalo Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I will go to my grave feeling that. We'll talk about the roster maybe next week more going forward. Let me ask you a question, though. Do you consider, and this is an honest question, I want your honest answer, do you consider Ed Oliver and Stephon Diggs great football players? Do you consider them great players?
Up until this year, Steph went on a run that catapulted him into that category of great players. Stephon Diggs did not have, if it's a sign of things to come, all right, the greatness is probably waning down to goodness right now.
What about Ed?
At the price tag, you're gonna start to feel it. Never put him in great players. Okay. I don't think the contract even did that. All right. When you see what Chandler Jones, Chris Jones is about to get, although I'm sure KC will franchise them and figure some out because they're not in any sort of financial trouble. I think Jones is huge for them. But when you see what Jones is about to get and Aaron Donald and a couple others, I think like maybe Leonard Williams, something like that. You see Ed Oliver, average yearly down a notch from that. All right. And that's because I think that it's a very accurate contract. All right. I think I think Oliver is a guy who needs some strength on his ends, okay, to really take advantage of some of his quickness and ability up the middle. I don't think, except against shitty opponents sometimes, and maybe that's not giving him enough credit, but for the most part, man, if he's disrupting a game himself, it's probably against lower competition.
Against the fucking Patriots or the Jets.
But I don't think I ever thought Ed Oliver could disrupt on his own. I never thought Ed Oliver could disrupt on his own. And when he goes up against, I'm sorry, all right, but like a 90 rated inside interior of Thuney or Thuney, who's an fabulous free agent signing by them. They had money, signed Joe Thuney. We didn't have as much, and signed Connor McGovern. All right, we did okay, but man, all right, they attach him to that Creed Humphrey. All right, who, quite frankly, is what I think pushed Mitch Morse out of out of there. So it's like, well, I mean, they are just nasty in there. And point being, man, Ed Oliver, he don't win against nasty motherfuckers like that. He just don't, and he's not really paid to.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to tell you right now, Terrell Bernard, the injuries were big. The championship pedigree of the Chiefs were big. Pat Mahomes, big, although him and Josh, for the most part, are a wash. Andy Reid, lots of factors. Listen, the biggest, let me give you the biggest reason why the Bills lost to the Chiefs. Their star players, not counting the quarterbacks, take them out because they're a wash. Chris Jones, Travis Kelce played like fucking stars in the playoffs, not the regular season. Travis Kelce didn't have a touchdown catch for 6 straight games to end the season. All right? Playoffs come, playoff players step up. Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, fucking phenomenal. Ed Oliver, Stephon Diggs did nothing, 0 in this game. Last year against the Bengals, Ed Oliver did nothing. So I asked you that question, and my answer is no, they're not great players, because great players play great in the playoffs in games that matter most. And this is kind of going back to what Tyler was talking about on the show the other day. You know, everyone wants to attach everything Tyler ever says in that fucking article. He's got a lot of other great stuff besides that shit, but part of what was in that article, besides Sean McDermott stuff, was the Bills, the expectations, their own expectations, fans, media, what's satisfactory. How can you call Ed Oliver a great player, which I did several times in the regular season, when he lays an egg in the playoffs, he face plants in the playoffs? Stephon Diggs, his last 3 years with the Bills in the playoffs in elimination games, he has 24 targets, 10 catches, 63 yards, no touchdowns. Total. 3 times, dude. 3 games. You got 63 total yards receiving in 3 fucking elimination losses. And Ed Oliver didn't even get a snip of a sack against the Bengals or the Chiefs the last 2 years. You cannot call those guys great players if your expectation should be championships when they just do nothing in the playoffs. Sorry, just can't.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't out there calling them great players to begin with. I know. Roy just fucking asked the question and shit.
I get fired up about that.
Look, you just named 2 guys that are already, getting fitted for gold jackets. Okay. There's Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. All right.
They just play better when it matters. And the Bills stars don't.
They're also just better. All right. Those are 2 guys that are just better than any 2 guys we got.
That's fair. Fuck. But they play their level of play rises in the playoffs. The Bills' best players, whether forget about comparing Kelce and Jones to Diggs and Oliver. Compare Diggs and Oliver regular season versus playoffs. And there's your answer right there. Anyway, I want to move on before we get out of here, because this was supposed to be about the Bills coordinators and thoughts on that.
Yo, you got to change your picture. Well, there's already, I mean, your whole, the picture that you use, the cover, are the 2 coordinators. I don't think we mentioned their names.
Well, we're about to now.
I don't think we even mentioned their names, which basically means we're about to tape some more shit that ain't about nothing but the fucking Bills. And the fun that was promised me is never going to come.
No, that's going to be tomorrow's episode. We're doing Fan Friday for Friday. But let's talk briefly about Joe Brady and Bobby Babich. Your thoughts on them? There's a lot of people out there who are, again, just, I did mention they can't earlier. Wait. Some people out there just cannot wait to dunk on Tyler Dunn, because Tyler talks at length about Sean McDermott and how coaches just don't work well with him and they want to leave and get out of here. And then Bobby Babich gets promoted, and he had interest from at least 3 other teams. Joe Brady gets he could have left. He had other options. He wanted to stay here. So you got 2 good young coordinators right now, which is credit to McDermott. They want to be here. But what are your thoughts, first of all, on both of them? And of the 2, Bobby Babich, I never realized it until like at the end of the season, how freaking impressive his resume with Buffalo has been, man. He develops all pro players, literally.
I just said a minute ago, and I may not have done it by name, but I alluded to not mentioning, your two cover athletes at all in the
You're talking about
during the course of the show. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, no, I just joked about, not talking about them at all. I'm not sure that I said their names, but I'm wrong in saying that they weren't talked about at all, because I remember making a statement earlier in the show. The Bills had a very good week. Now, mind you, you were talking about something else, and
I still got Kansas City anger.
But the Bills had a very good week, and that's like almost on to the next for me, Oh, the part about people wanting to use that dunk on Tyler and stuff like that, you still got your Tyler time fresh in
I do.
In your head.
The Tyler slander bothers
defensive.
me. The Chiefs loss still bothers me. I'm still fucking very aggressive right now. I'm not happy.
That's interesting. Yeah. You should try edibles. I think I think that piece now is out there for for the good remainder of McDermott's time here. It's going to be referenced. It was such a monster. And I think that I think that Tyler's probably pretty lighthearted about it by this point, especially when it comes to just fringe stuff like that.
He just doesn't pay attention to the fans.
Yeah,
on Twitter.
That's better too.
On Twitter,
that works.
He doesn't
too.
care.
So I that sort of stuff about guys want to stay. That's no surprise. All right, look, McDermott didn't mesh well with the core offensive staff of the previous group. Okay, Dayball, Chad, Dayball's out there. Dayball's just a player, man.
Yeah.
Yo, McDermott, if he anything, he a player hater. All right, if McDermott is anything, he's a player hater,
a young player hater, right?
Brian
Dayball,
sure.
Rookies, second-year guys.
Well, and I'm talking coaches and dudes, our age and shit too. And then Hall, the way they loved Hall, and I don't think it was a case of why don't they love me like that. I really don't. I've had bosses. I've been Chad Hall and had bosses like McDermott. All right. Mm-hmm. He absolutely would think that your crew loving you that much is going to be taken advantage of, and your ability to lead them, all right, will be compromised. So I ain't a McDermott hater when it comes to that sort of thing, but it's not hard to kind of identify some of the likely core players that are coaches, all right, players in terms of theatrics, but in the piece, okay, it's just not that hard to know who a lot of that came from and who he's talking about in a lot of cases. Maybe not where it all came from, but the Hall thing is obviously referenced, and I think the Hall thing tells one of the biggest stories about McDermott, and it ain't a terrible story. Yo, he overcame it. All right, he was underachieving massively. He deserved all the doubt. All right, I'm sure Tyler. Did you guys talk about? Was he holding it until? It was on the bye. Did he ever say whether he did that?
He said he did the story. He did the story when it was done. The premise for the story to do it now came after they lost to Denver and Philly, games that they should have won both. They were at 6-6 going into the bye, and it felt like yet another lost season. Yeah, and I think most people at that time felt that way.
Yeah. Timing was perfect.
Season's over.
Timing was perfect.
Well, some people think
it's like no one
sabotaged the season.
It's like the old fuck that. It's like old school. No one when to post a Facebook post. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You got something good. You ain't gonna get it. You ain't throwing out your kids. Football play that you want to get a ton of likes on like a Saturday night or something like that. People ain't on, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta. It's about
wait till Sunday morning.
Yeah, you gotta get the maximum viewership.
Everybody would be on Facebook. So
I always tell my wife that too. Like I post my
back
best
in the
shit
day.
Sunday 7 p.m.
I'll go forever now without worrying about what's going on there. But no, Joe Brady. There was a lot of teeth to that story. And the response by the man, certainly most affected by it.
I want to point out to you
the response was strong. My man grinded through.
Let me
and
point
took
this
his
to you.
and took his squad on a streak.
We got some Fan Friday.
That's pretty big.
There's again, because your show prep with me is like quite literally zero, and we got some questions for tomorrow. So there'll be stuff on that topic tomorrow. Joe Brady, I like the fact that he has a body of work with the Bills. Like Ken Dorsey never called plays before. Like he just replaced Brian Dable. Joe Brady called plays for the last 6 weeks, which was like porno music to Sean McDermott, the way he likes to run the football, the way Brady ran the football.
I don't like that correlation. The fact that Brady was a little music? No. The fact that Brady was kind of the same sort of puppet to McDermott that I think Dorsey, may have been. I think
they ran the ball a lot more and a lot more effectively.
You know where the narrative, I mean, I get it, man, but the narrative for the big uptick in running over the win streak and the Brady era, 6 games, whatever, is the fucking Dallas game. We just never stopped. Man. You take that Dallas game.
Yeah, it was fun. They couldn't stop it.
You take that Dallas game, and then those stats start to bleed into some of the others, and it looks like we made this huge shift in the way we were trying to win football games. And right. Football games that we're winning, which also tells you a lot about the run. I just don't think Joe Brady. Look, I don't think Joe Brady is going to cross the line of demarcation that Brian Daboll did with not giving a fuck-to-ness. All right,
not giving a fuck to-ness.
Yeah, I think Brady's more inclined to play that one a little closer to the vest than Daboll did. But I do think that I do think that Sean McDermott likely has the ability right now, if he wants, to do nothing but macro manage his football team, because I think the Bills absolutely retained and dropped the interim tag from 2 absolute stars. I think they might have the best. Look, I'm not drink the Kool-Aid guy. I love negativity, but where my optimism sometimes tends to to really heighten is this time of year. But I think the Bills may have the best pair of coordinators in football right now. That's how highly I think of these two dudes.
Do you know what Joe Brady deserves a lot of credit for, low key, that he doesn't get? Because we talk, I just told you the running game, this running game, that. Khalil Shakir really broke out under the second half of the season with Joe Brady as coordinator. They got him the ball a lot more. He made a lot of big plays for the Bills.
And I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off, because people hate the play. All right, people hate the play because we were just running it to Steph with Dorsey, and he's the only one we were running it to. Brady got those swing screens to work. All right, those I mean, when he hit Kincaid, one of the biggest problems with that play, that little wide receiver hit screen or whatever, I'm sure there's a more articulate way of putting it, a proper way of putting it, that I don't know, because I just don't know the X's and O's of football well enough, other than from a referee's perspective.
So you're not going to go work at Cover One and be in the film room anytime soon?
I am not, but one day I wouldn't mind coaching football, and it sucks because I wouldn't even know where to start with a playbook. But anyways, back to the run of those dig type screens. Man, did they start to get those to work, man. All right. I mean, when he did the screen to Kincaid off the line with 2 blockers in front of him. Oh my God, that was Brady-esque in the Hernandez Gronk years. It was absolutely beautiful.
Agreed.
Man. So people that hate on, and a lot of people hated the look of the passing game in the Kansas City game. Look at all these passes behind the line of scrimmage and all that stuff. Yo, man, 6 to 8 of those were some badass receiver screens that went for chunks of 7 and 9.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, Brady is there, dude.
I don't think Brady's a surprise.
There's no reason to believe, all right, that Josh Allen won't take an absurd statistical leap ahead in the back half of his career. All right. As they start to protect him more, they start to, to get him the weapons and see, how the game's evolved. Bill's a little late to the party. We all know this. All right. The wide receiver train over on GR. All right. Certainly, has been on this. Bill's a little late to the party, but they're about to load up Josh Allen. Yeah. I mean, they're just about to load up Josh Allen. Brady will go so crazy. Brady be out of here in a year. You really want to check into who the Bills.
It's funny you say that.
You really want to check into who an important Bills hire coming up is. Find me the guy who's going to replace Brady, maybe an up and coming quarterbacks coach or something. Give me Tad Lewis.
Funny you say that, because switch to the other side. Joe Brady was not a surprise. I don't think there was ever any real candidate to take the OC job, and he wasn't going to get a head coach job this year. So I was 0% surprised. I was a little bit worried about Bobby Babich, because we started hearing about Miami wants to interview him, Green Bay, New York Giants. So 3 teams were in on him and interested in him as their DC. Eric Washington leaves for Chicago. The one thing I'm going to say about Bobby Babich before we get out of here is, you said that a player told me straight up, he says within 2 years, Bobby Babich will be an NFL head coach somewhere 2 years or less. But within 2 years, he said he thinks Bobby Babich will actually be a coach in the NFL. Dude, I never really thought twice of him until I saw the resume. Again, he started with the safeties. He came in. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde were pretty good with their other teams. They became all pros with the Bills. He took over 2022. He goes to linebackers. Matt Milano's an all-pro. Look what Terrell Bernard was this year. I thought he was going to suck. So Bobby Babich
we did, man. Oh my God.
I fucking hated the thought of Terrell Bernard starting.
Going all the way back to the
one of my worst takes ever. I have a lot of bad takes, and that was up there with the worst ever. But I think we can agree on one thing here.
They might be absolute stars, bro.
They might.
I mean, I think we've got 2 absolute coaching stars as coordinators.
They both might be head coaches in a couple of years. So that's why I started laughing when you said that, because I heard the same thing, but about Bobby Babich. But anyway, yeah, so we're both happy with them. And whatever you think about Sean's relationship with other coaches, I think it's a W for the Bills and the organization, and for Sean, that he was able to keep Brady and keep Babich too, who probably could have went somewhere else if he really wanted to. But
they played it great. However, letting these guys go talk. The Bills are a pretty well-run football administration. That's Brandon Beane. It's also McDermott plenty, because McDermott really has the say over those coaches' decisions. But just the way the Bills do business, I think the ambassador for the team and all around just kind of cool ass dude for people that care about that shit too is Brandon Beane. Speaking of cool ass dude, did you happen to catch the Eric Wood, Brandon Beane clip from Wood's podcast that he showed when Wood won the fucking Derby?
Eric was
quiet. He's a little.
I'll tell this.
He's a little quiet about it. But the fact that Beane would think to pull out the video, all right, and now it could have been someone else in the party that just sent it to Beane or something like that. But I think that tells you a lot about E. Wood and Brandon. I got totally off track there, but I think the Bills have a ton of respect for how they do business, and they achieved they got their guys.
This was a great start.
They got their guys.
If you're looking,
and those guys are uber important. Okay, the defensive coordinator, who's ultimately going to take a little bit of the load off of our overworked head
whether
coach.
He calls plays or not, he calls plays or not, he's still going to matter.
And a competent offensive coordinator for an entire football season. Sure. All right, when we had one for like only a third of a football season coming in, and there should be a ton of optimism around the start of this offseason. You couldn't ask for it to start any better. It's, there were uncertainties at the 2 most important coaching pieces below the head coach, and they made them certainties over the course of the week. Big start.
Agreed.
Love off-season football, man. Give me all those off-season stories. For the first time, I actually want to talk about football.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this Saber-free episode of talking Buffalo.
Man, what a win. What a win for this to be a Saber-free episode. Huge dub for the program.
I'm actually going to have Tone Pucks right back with me tomorrow. We're going to do Fan Friday, answer some of your questions and comments. Talk to you tomorrow.